Welcome to this very long overdue update. Just some general things. I have been in a lot of pain recently. Just of every second or third day I'm getting a lot of abdominal pain, and I'm gonna get some medicines next week to try and reduce that a bit. So these will be medicines to um, yeah affect my digestion. I've been kind of reluctant to do that because I don't want to be relying on medicines at any point. Um, and you can get medicines that affect digestion, but um, I want the nervous system to kind of retrain and recover, and that's going to take time. So it's been like 4 months since my big abdominal surgery to reconnect my intestines, and I'm still following a super strict zero, well, essentially zero carbohydrate diet. Um, and yeah, even though I've had kind of periods of quite intense pain, it's so much better than life before the reversal surgery. Um, and hopefully things will calm down a bit if I can make the situation a little bit better with some medicines, and then um, kind of gradually reduce the medicines. I don't know, but I'm going to try out some stuff and take lots of notes and kind of work out how to improve things a bit. I've been continuing with rehabilitation, um, which is really good. I've got a very good physiotherapist here in Tokyo. He's a sports physiotherapist, so he's very outcomes based and very strict. And I see him at the moment every 3 weeks, and he sort of checks my movement and strength in, like, particularly supporting muscles that have become so weak through 5 years of brutal cancer treatment. And then he typically prescribes like 10 to 15 exercises that I then have to do every day. And that's getting quite tough, but the results are just dramatic. It's like magic. It's got me back. Well, it's got me in considerably better condition than I was before the cancer started 5 years ago. Before I had the three surgeries and all the chemo and the radiation therapy. So that's amazing. Um, and because I'm not doing chemo at the moment, and because of not having the colostomy bag, I can be far more active and a lot more in control of my life, which is a great feeling. So I've been going to martial art lessons again, getting to the dojo once or twice a week, swimming every week as well, taking a bath with my daughter sometimes, which is just magical. But the time for kind of resting and enjoying is really over. So I need to get working on big stuff, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I've started um, getting this non-profit organization off the ground. So the organization is called Make Cancer History, and you can go to the very sparse website makecancerhistory.jp. .jp for Japan, so makecancerhistory.jp, and I've actually now got some members, which is very gratifying. So it's becoming a real organization. On Thursday this week, I'm going to meet with someone from Yokohama government to start organizing our first event, which will be an outreach thing about women's cancers. One of the reasons for focusing on that initially is that in Japan, the uptake of HPV vaccine is really, really, really low. There was some, or the media scare basically, where it seemed that some young women had got bad reaction from the vaccine. The media kind of swooped in, and people lost their confidence, and it's very, 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 very unlikely that these women got the serious side effects from the vaccine. But I mean, we know that just from the widespread use in Asia, the data is kind of overwhelming. And just last week, a study was published in The Lancet of how incredibly effective HPV vaccine is for preventing cervical cancer, and widespread use of the vaccine would wipe out cervical cancer basically. Now, my NPO is absolutely not about raising awareness for cancer. There are many organizations doing that, and I kind of think it's not really a priority anyway. What we need to be doing is developing better treatments and really effective screening. And actually, with better treatments, the current screening becomes better. It kind of sounds a bit weird to say that, but one of the reasons why cancer screening is ineffective is that treatments tend to be quite destructive. So screening and finding cancers early doesn't necessarily make a massive difference, because most of the treatments are toxic and not very good. So if we can improve treatments, then screening automatically becomes more valuable. So I think, we really need to focus on having a more serious attitude towards treatments, which is what my NPO will do. And the big thing will be establishing a research lab next year at some point, and also joining up with lots of researchers in Japan and elsewhere, but particularly in Japan, to get the treatments out quicker. There's all these incredible new testing methodologies at the moment. They could have a really useful role in treatment development, because if you have really reliable testing, then you can be more confident that your preclinical trials are more valid, and then you can kind of go in harder and faster on the clinical trials. So lots of exciting possibilities there, and it's all happening, which is amazing. So I've got some members, little website up, starting with the first events, and so that's the NPO. And you might think, is it realistic to try and cure cancer? Can cancer be cured? Now, there's a sort of a big myth that the only way to deal with cancer is deal with it as a chronic disease. That's simply not true. People have been cured of cancer. Possibly me, we shall see in the future, but certainly people have been cured of cancer. So two issues are really, how can we find people who will respond very well to current treatments? And secondly, how can we change and improve the treatments so that more people can benefit from them? I think both of those are going to be more effective than just trying to develop new treatments. So there's there's an attitude in medicine, in oncology in particular, but in medicine in general, that it doesn't matter kind of what you do, you just do stuff and do basic research and do some applications and implementation, and you get some results. So there really is no strategy there at all. And I understand that absolutely, because in the case of cancer, we don't know much about how cancer works. There are things that are kind of odd about cancer, many things, and it's incredibly complex, and there are many aspects, so it's incredibly complicated. But because of that, there's no strategy, and I mean, that's just ridiculous, really. And there's also like really rotten thinking in medicine, really, really rotten thinking. There's a lot of misunderstanding and competition between different fields of medicine. There's a lot of misunderstanding and competition within any given field of medicine. The people involved are terrible at talking to each other. They're always too busy on what they're doing to kind of improve how they're doing it. So when I talk to researchers about research, it's just surreal. It is just surreal. Like they haven't really spent any time looking at how you could improve research, or they haven't really thought a lot about the nature of research and how to improve research. There's just this kind of idea of plodding along in this tough battle, no expectation at all that they can actually get to the end of it. And I understand that, that feeling, and I particularly with oncology, I can understand it because, let's be honest, in oncology, basically everyone dies, generally, and the treatments are very invasive or very toxic, very debilitating. I mean, they leave patients in pretty poor condition, and the treatments just don't work particularly well. So I do understand why things are like that, but that doesn't make it right at all. We have to take a far more serious strategic approach. So, for example, it's just obvious to me that we should be focusing on cancer agnostic treatments. So so instead of there's this terribly overused word, precision medicine or personalized medicine. Those things don't scale. So I've had, in a sense, I had very personalized precision medicine because I had treatments made from my own white blood cells. But because it's done per patient using patient's own cells, it's difficult to scale it. Not impossible, but it is a bit difficult. But at least it's cancer agnostic in that it works or has the potential to work for any patient, except like if they have cancer immune system, like the leukemias. Another group probably is people with autoimmune diseases. If they also have cancer, that would be a really bad idea to start mucking around with their white blood cells. But at least, it's a cancer agnostic treatment. So it's really important to focus on the things that are going to get the results and focus on the things that are going to get useful results. It just doesn't make sense to develop treatments that are too expensive to use. Doesn't make sense to develop treatments that are too toxic to use. Doesn't make sense to develop treatments that are too toxic and too expensive to use. Doesn't make sense to develop treatments that just give you a tiny incremental improvement in survival. Why would you do that? And yet those three things are very, very common in oncology. People develop treatments that are too toxic to use, and they say, oh well, we'll have lots of drugs to develop to manage the side effects, or we'll maybe develop some different treatment protocols and the treatment will be just about bearable for patients. I've had treatments that should not be allowed, too horrific, too damaging, and yeah, it's kind of appalling that they're in use. So that those molecular targeted therapies, the ones I had that caused a terrible skin rash that have left me with permanent damage to my skin, yeah, I don't think we should think that those are acceptable treatments. Maybe yes, use them at the moment, but be honest with ourselves, they are unacceptable. The surgery I had, I mean, it's just the idea that you would take out a section of someone's intestine and that would be like a sensible approach to cancer. I mean, it's yeah, it's very, very silly and inexcusable, really. Understandable, but inexcusable. So that's what's happening at the moment in my life. So the NPO is the big thing, and there's obviously a huge amount of work to do, but I think there's a lot of potential there to eradicate some cancers, sort of, yeah, things like cervical cancer, where it's kind of relatively well understood, the cause is relatively well understood, and we know we have this HPV vaccine that can have a big effect, and then other cancers that we could cure with some more strategic, sensible research. So, yep, thanks for listening, and I shall talk to you in the next video.